Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. The pillow sealed over my face before I woke. I'm Claire, 32, and I came to underweight. No breath moved, my lips pushed against thick fabric. I clawed up, but someone pressed down from above. That pressure knew exactly where to hold and where to hurt. My hands found wrists instead of loose cotton. Bone, tendons, warm skin gripping hard and steady. I jerked sideways, kicked the mattress, tried to twist free. The noise was small, that panicked animal kind of sound. Whoever leaned on me did not flinch at all. I bucked harder and caught an elbow with my shoulder. The pressure shifted just enough and air sliced in. I tore the pillow aside and rolled toward the edge. My chest burned and my throat made ugly sounds. Above me, Lena watched like she had been studying me. She did not step back, just stood near my feet. My husband mumbled behind me, still half inside sleep. Lena tilted her head and smoothed the pillow slowly. "You were thrashing again," she murmured, almost like a nurse. Her voice stayed calm while my lungs shook for air. I tried to speak, but my tongue felt thick. She kept going before I found any real words. "You shoved it over your own face, it scared me." Her eyes stayed on mine, waiting for belief or doubt. I knew she would use either one against me. Behind us, my husband shifted and checked his phone. "What time is it?" he groaned, rubbing at his forehead. I looked at him and then back at her. My fingers still trembled around the pillow's twisted corner. I heard myself laugh once when nothing was funny. "I think I had a bad dream," I managed eventually. The sentence tasted false, but it slid out easily. Lena relaxed her shoulders when I said that excuse. She placed the pillow neatly where my head had been. My husband reached for me without seeing her at all. He pulled me close, kissed my hair, asked routine questions. Did I want water? Did I want the fan? He spoke like every other tired weekend morning before now. Over his shoulder, Lena leaned against the door frame. She smiled slow, like we had shared a private joke. I lay there and counted the beats of my heart. Each pulse reminded me how close I had come. If I accused her right there, the weekend exploded. If I stayed quiet, I slept in the same house. Silence felt cowardly, but survival never looks brave in real time. Lena disappeared down the hallway without another word. Her footsteps faded, then the bathroom door clicked shut. Water started, louder than it needed to run. She knew the noise would cover anything I said now. My husband yawned and asked if I wanted breakfast together. I said yes because saying no would raise questions. He thought I meant questions about our marriage and stress. I meant questions about why his sister liked my pillow. He wrapped his arm around my waist and held tighter. I watched the bedroom door like it might open again. Getting dressed became a performance I acted on autopilot. I checked my neck in the mirror, looking for marks. Faint lines traced where her grip had been strongest. Nothing dramatic enough for a photo, but not nothing either. I touched each line and tried to trust my own memory. Downstairs, coffee already waited on the counter in 2 mugs. Lena's back faced us, shoulders relaxed, humming something tuneless. She turned when we entered, lifting 1 mug toward me. "Made yours the way you like it," she said brightly. My fingers hesitated before wrapping around the warm ceramic. I watched the surface instead of drinking right away. No visible film, no strange powder, nothing floating or sinking. Paranoia tells stories very fast after you almost stop breathing. I glanced at my husband, who grabbed his without hesitation. Lena watched me, not him, while he took the first sip. The knife came out while she sliced a bagel for him. It was big enough that I noticed the weight easily. She angled the blade toward a cutting board, then changed direction. The tip stopped a breath away from my resting hand. A thin white line appeared on my skin where it grazed. Her eyes flicked down, then up again, almost amused. "Careful, this thing is sharper than it looks," she noted. She turned the handle, laid the knife between us casually. The steel pointed toward me like a suggestion rather than accident. I pulled my hand back and tucked it under my arm. My husband missed the near miss completely, focused on his phone. He asked about plans for the day, voice easy and light. Lena answered for us, proposing games and a walk later. She always spoke like the host, though it was our booking. I let her take that space and hated myself for it. Every time she moved around the kitchen, I tracked her hands. Where they rested, what they picked up, what they placed down. She brushed crumbs off the counter with the knife still nearby. When she finally set it in the sink, I exhaled once. Even then, she left the blade turned outward, not inward. I know. Now that morning would look very clear on replay. The sleep panic, the almost cut, the waiting coffee. In the moment, it still felt possible. I imagined parts. That thin doubt is what people like her rely on. They build it carefully, one nearly invisible moment at a time. My husband joked about my night terrors while spreading cream cheese. He bumped my hip with his light, affectionate clueless. Lena watched that small contact with an unreadable expression. She smiled when he looked at her, then at me. The smile vanished the second his gaze dropped to breakfast. He left the room to grab something from upstairs. The second his steps faded, the air shifted sharply. I stood alone with his sister, my half-full mug. She wiped an invisible spot from the counter, dragging it out. Then she turned and really looked at me for the first time. "You scared me last night," she said, no warmth at all. Her hands folded, empty now, fingers interlocking slowly. "I thought you were going to hurt yourself in your sleep." There was concern in her tone, but none in her face. I felt like I was standing too close to an edge. "I woke up under a pillow," I answered, voice steady. My throat protested each word, tight, tender, exposed. She stepped nearer until we were almost shoulder to shoulder. "You dreamt that," she breathed, so soft I almost missed it. The words were gentle, the warning underneath was not. I could tell she wanted a simple response, fast and pliable. An apology maybe, or a shaky laugh or silent agreement. Anything that told her I would not push this further. Instead, I held her stare and let the silence stretch. Her jaw flexed, tiny movement, like she was measuring my threat. Upstairs, a drawer slammed, followed by my husband's curse. The spell of that stare broke for half a second. She leaned back on the counter, casual again, almost playful. "Long weekends bring out the weird in people," she remarked. Her tone said people, but her eyes chose you instead. I rinsed my untouched coffee down the drain without comment. The smell hit me stronger on the way out than before. Maybe it was the timing, maybe just my nerves spiking. Either way, the thought of swallowing it clenched my stomach. Lena noticed, tracking the mug from my hand to the sink. "Too strong?" she asked, tilting her head, watching the swirl. I shrugged and reached for the tap, letting water run. "Just not in the mood," I said, keeping my voice level. She smiled, but it did not reach anything real. Her fingers tapped a slow pattern on the counter near mine. My husband came back, chattering about bad cell service inside. He asked if we were good, both of us, simple question. I answered first, faster than she could shape a response. "Yeah, just tired," I told him, and heard my own lie. Lena laughed softly, like that explained everything he needed to believe. If I had stopped the weekend right there, things changed. Packed a bag, called a ride, left them both behind. I thought that would look paranoid, maybe even cruel. I still wanted to believe accidents were accidents, not rehearsals. So I stayed, and she saw that, and it thrilled her. The keys were already in her hand when I came downstairs. She tossed them once, caught them, looked right at me. "Road trip for snacks," she announced as if it was settled. My husband liked the idea before I could answer. He clapped his hands once and reached for his jacket. "I can drive," I moved toward the hook on instinct. Lena skipped closer and bumped my shoulder out of range. "You barely slept," her smile felt polite, not kind. "Let me handle it, you just relax today." Every word sounded generous, every gesture pinned me. I climbed into the back, not next to her. That choice looked small, but it changed my breathing. She glanced at me in the mirror longer than needed. "You sure back there is okay?" she asked, voice neutral. I buckled in and rested my hand on the latch. The first stop sign came up quicker than I expected. She rolled through it with barely a pause, eyes forward. My husband joked about small towns and lazy rules. I watched her right foot instead, steady on the pedal. She did not joke, she only adjusted her grip. On the highway, she pushed over the limit and held. Wind noise filled the car enough to blur quiet tones. They talked about movies while she changed lanes aggressively. I tracked every merge, every near miss, every late signal. My ribs tense before each sudden shift. A truck drifted near the line and stayed there. Lena tapped the steering wheel, studying the gap. "Plenty of room," she murmured, more to herself than us. She punched the gas and sliced between bumper and guardrail. My stomach dropped while the horn behind us blared. My husband threw his arm across the dashboard automatically. He laughed afterward, shaky, tried to brush it off. That was tight, he muttered, adjusting his seatbelt again. I gripped my own BLT until my knuckles ached. In the mirror, Lena noticed and held my gaze half a beat. At the store lot, she swung into a narrow space. The car lurched, then shuddered close to the concrete post. Almost kissed it, she joked, fingers still loose on the wheel. My door stopped against the post when I tried to exit. I had to squeeze sideways to avoid scraping my hip. Inside, we split up to grab things quickly. I watched her reflection in the refrigerator glass while choosing drinks. She lingered in the pharmacy aisle longer than necessary. Her basket stayed light, yet she never stopped scanning shelves. When she reappeared, her hands were empty. At the register, she volunteered to take the car back. "Air in here feels gross," she announced, fanning her shirt. My husband stayed with me, digging for his wallet. Through the front windows, I saw her climb into the driver's seat. She leaned across where I had been. By the time we walked out, she was already done. She sat in the driver's place, scrolling through her phone. The back door on my side was slightly open. Nothing dramatic, just an inch, like someone forgot to shut it. I pulled it wider and noticed my seatbelt twisted oddly. The buckle lay locked into place, but the strap crossed wrong. It looped once around the metal anchor under the seat. If it tightened during a crash, I would fold downward. My husband reached in to fix it, brow creased. "How did you even manage this?" he asked, genuinely puzzled. Lena leaned over the console, watching his fingers work. "She always tangles stuff," she remarked, light, practiced teasing tone. The comment landed like a tiny pin meant to stick. I slid into the seat and checked every click myself. A new rule formed quietly in my head. On the drive back, she took a different route. Narrower road, more curves, fewer other cars around us. "Scenic way," she explained, eyes on the tree line. My husband approved and reached for the radio again. I opened my window just enough to stay alert. Halfway home, she drifted toward the shoulder just a little. Gravel crunched under the tires and spat against the frame. "Oops," she muttered and tugged the wheel sharply back. The car swayed, my body pulled against the belt. My heart raced like it wanted to outrun the vehicle. I pretended to stretch and tugged at the headrest. If this car rolled, I wanted something behind my skull. The thought shocked me because it felt practical, not wild. My brain had moved from fear to planning without permission. I wondered what that meant for the rest of the weekend. Back at the house, she killed the engine and lingered. "That was fun," she commented, glancing at me in the mirror. "See, we survived your bad dream hangover drive." The way she framed it turned my near suffocation into a joke. My husband chuckled once and missed the way my jaw clenched. We carried the bags inside, arms loaded. Twice she brushed past me in the doorway with just enough force. Items shifted in my hands, almost slipped, barely held. Each bump felt like she was checking reflexes, not clumsy. I started counting how often she touched me at all. In the kitchen, she unpacked everything and took charge again. She organized the snacks into piles and handed them out. One wrapped bar landed in front of me like a dare. "Try this later, super addictive," she told me. Her fingers lingered on the wrapper, covering the ingredients list. I pocketed it instead of opening it on the spot. Her eyebrow lifted slightly when she saw me stash it. "Saving it for tonight," I explained, forcing a light tone. "Want to actually taste things when I'm not exhausted." Her grin stretched wider, then vanished when my husband returned. He asked about going for a walk to clear his head. Lena jumped on the idea before I could respond. "Yes, let's hit that trail behind the houses," she proposed. She turned toward me with bright enthusiasm. "You coming, or are you scared of more nightmares?" I watched their faces and weighed my options fast. Stay behind alone with my thoughts and her things. Go along and put my body near more edges outside. Neither choice felt safe, just different shapes of risk. I grabbed my shoes anyway, heart already calculating exits. On the path, she walked slightly ahead of us. She pointed out turns, acted familiar like she'd explored already. Occasionally she looked back to check our pace. The slope grew steeper without much warning. Loose dirt shifted under each step like tiny betrayals. "Watch your footing," she called just as I slipped. Her hand shot out and grabbed my arm, very firm. She yanked me upright with more force than necessary. My ankle twisted and pain shot up my leg. For a second I couldn't tell if she had helped. "You okay?" My husband reached for me, concerned and close. I nodded, more from pride than accuracy. Lena's grip stayed on my elbow a moment too long. Then she released me and dusted off her own leggings. "Trail maintenance sucks around here," she muttered, scanning the drop. We reached a narrow section carved along a shallow ravine. To one side packed dirt wall, to the other drop and rocks. Lena hopped ahead and planted herself at the outer edge. She stretched her arms wide, enjoying the balance challenge. The path forced me to pass within reach. As I came closer, she shifted a foot half an inch. Her heel nudged loose stones toward my shoes. My footing wobbled and my arms flew out. She grabbed my wrist and steadied me, just in time. Her nails pressed into my skin like tiny hooks. "Careful, wouldn't want you to tumble," her breath brushed my ear. From anyone else, the sentence could have been kindness. From her, it sounded like a disappointed wish. My husband, still behind us, only saw the rescue pose. "Nice catch," he called, laughing lightly, completely unaware. When we reached a wider clearing, I stopped walking. "I think I'm done," I announced, wiping sweat from my forehead. My ankle still complained, my nerves even louder. "I'll head back, you two go further if you want." The offer tasted risky the second I voiced it. Lena opened her mouth, maybe to volunteer escort duty. I cut in fast and pointed at my husband instead. "Can you go with her? I know you wanted more steps." He hesitated, torn, looking between us, trying to read. I layered a grin over the tension in my voice. "Seriously, I'm fine, straight path back, no drama." I rolled my ankle experimentally to sell the excuse. "She walks faster anyway, you just leave me behind." He relaxed and agreed, lifting their joined hands for emphasis. Lena watched me closely and accepted his arm. As they headed deeper into the trail, I turned around. I tested each patch of uneven ground like it might move. Every crunch under my shoes sounded louder than necessary. Once they vanished from view, I let my smile drop. Fear expanded into all the space their presence left. Back at the house, I locked the door behind me. That small click felt louder than their car earlier. I took out the snack bar and read the label carefully. Nothing illegal, nothing dramatic, just ingredients I should avoid anyway. Inside my chest, something heavy finally settled into place. This was not my imagination stretching shadows into monsters. This was someone testing until something finally broke. And I realized, walking slow through that quiet kitchen, I was the only one in that house willing to name it. Which meant I was also the only one preparing for her next move. Her hand was already in my toiletries bag when I walked in. She froze with the zipper halfway open, fingers around a bottle. Steam from the shower still clung to the mirror. "My migraine stuff went missing," she announced, like this explained everything. The container in her palm had my name printed in large letters. I stepped closer and took it from her without asking. The cap felt loose in a way it never had before. Inside, the pills were a different shape than last time. Not completely different, just off enough to bother me. Her gaze stayed on my face, not the bottle. "Those are mine," my voice came out flatter than planned. She lifted one shoulder casual and reached for her toothbrush. "Relax," I grabbed the wrong one, labels look alike. The lie arrived too fast, like she had practiced it. My pulse picked up, though everything looked almost normal. I carried the bottle to the sink and poured two out. One matched the old tablets inside my travel case. The other had a faint line where there never was one. I knew that difference because I live on structure. She watched me compare them like I was the unstable one. "You really should not mix yours with mine." She leaned against the door frame, arms folded, expression mild. "One day you might take something meant for me instead." The way she framed it sounded like a careless accident. My gut heard a suggestion, not a warning. When she left, I locked the bathroom door behind her. I lined the pills in a row beside the faucet. Old shape, old again, another new one. My brain cataloged patterns while my hands shook. I snapped a photo, then another, just in case. I dumped every tablet back into the container in front of me. Then I did something I never thought I would do. I took out a second empty bottle from my makeup bag. Half of the original pills went into that secret one. If she swapped anything again, it would not be in my stomach. Downstairs, she stood near the outlet with an appliance in her grip. Water from a sponge ran in little streams toward the cord. Outlet keeps sparking, she commented, flicking the switch repeatedly. The plug jerked in the socket with each movement. She did it again when my foot hit the last stair. My husband glanced over from the couch but did not move. Probably bad wiring, he called out, eyes back on his screen. I took 3 quick steps and pulled the cord from the wall. It came free harder than expected, like something resisted. Lena's jaw tightened for a second, then smoothed. Careful, you could shock yourself yanking like that. She dried her hands on a dish towel, watching my grip. I held the plug up so he could see the blackened plastic. The edges had melted in one place, uneven and rough. No one had mentioned any sparks before this moment. My husband finally set his device aside and stood. He examined the damage, then the wet counter, then me. Okay, no one used that outlet, he decided, trying to sound firm. Lena nodded and stepped away, palms raised in surrender. Her eyes flashed toward the floor where water still pooled. After he left the room, she leaned in near my shoulder. You keep jumping in like a rescue dog, she murmured. Her breath brushed my ear, cool and amused. One day that impulse is going to backfire hard. I stared at the ruined plug and heard a promise. My panic started to shift into something sharper that afternoon. Fear is heavy, but suspicion has direction and teeth. I walked through each room and noted tiny details. Cords looped strangely, chairs near edges, doors that never fully latched. It felt less like a rental place and more like a setup. In the living room, I left my phone on the shelf. Screen dark, camera pointed toward the couch and nearby table. I tapped the button 3 times and started a recording silently. Then I called out that I needed a quick nap upstairs. Lena answered with a light joke about my low stamina. I did not sleep, I waited behind the bedroom doorway instead. From there I could see a slice of the hallway. Minutes stretched long, punctuated by distant cabinet noises. Then her footsteps approached, unhurried, confident, right on cue. She paused near the spot where my phone waited alone. I heard drawers open, then the faint buzz of a notification. Her voice came low, words too muffled to catch clearly. A short laugh escaped her, sharp and delighted. The hairs on my arms rose even before I understood. Silence followed, the kind that means someone is reading. When she headed back toward the kitchen, I moved fast. I grabbed the phone, slipped into the bathroom, pressed play. The video showed her scanning the room, making sure it was empty. She picked up my drink, sniffed it, then poured half out. From her pocket, she lifted a small, unmarked blister pack. My heart hammered so loud I almost missed her next line. This would work faster tonight anyway, she whispered to herself. She tapped 1 capsule against the rim, then reconsidered. Instead of dropping it in, she shoved it back into her jeans. The kind of caution that comes from doing this more than once. I rewound that sentence 3 times, listening to every breath. I wanted to believe I misunderstood, that it meant something harmless. But I knew what deliberate preparation sounded like. Right there in grainy footage was my small proof. Not enough for police, more than enough for survival decisions. At lunch, she brought out a new bottle from her bag. Energy booster, she announced, setting it in the middle. Little capsules rattled inside when she shook it. Helps with long weekends, 1 or 2 won't kill you. The last words landed heavier than the others. My husband reached first because of course he did. He rolled a capsule between his fingers, intrigued. I slapped his wrist with more force than necessary. Check the dosage with your medication, I snapped, feigning concern. He frowned, then checked the label with a sigh. It's fine, he held it up, reading the tiny print aloud. She watched us both, amused and patient like a game show host. I already took mine, she added, pointing at her empty hand. If she was lying, she did it without a blink. The idea of swallowing anything from that bottle turned my stomach. He put it down, more to avoid arguing than from belief. Probably smart to skip mixing stuff, he muttered, shrugging. Lena shrugged back and slid the supplements toward me. Your call, she murmured, eyes fixed on my face. I pushed it back into the center of the table. Later, while he showered, I opened her travel backpack. I did it quickly, fingers careful, ears tuned for steps. Inside, nestled between clothes, sat the familiar blister pack. Several capsules were missing, torn out cleanly along the edges. Next to it lay a folded slip of paper with numbers. 10 digits, no name, just a short note in rushed handwriting. Call before you use more, do not mix again. The word again burned through me more than the rest. My thumb hovered over the phone number, tempted. Then I tucked the paper into my pocket instead. When she walked into the room, my hands were already empty. She found me sitting on the bed, scrolling my screen. Checking work mail on vacation, she teased, leaning in. Her gaze flicked toward her bag, quick, assessing the corners of her mouth. H tightened, then relaxed. You ever worry you're too careful? She sat beside me. Her knee bumped mine, deliberately staying there. Always planning for disasters that never happen. Her eyes searched my profile like she hunted a crack. I gave her nothing but a thin smile. People who never worry usually get blindsided, I answered. I kept my tone mild, almost conversational. I like to see trouble coming if I can. For a second, genuine interest sparked in her expression. Predators recognize their own, even when they pretend not to. That evening, I insisted on handling dinner myself. My husband welcomed the break and flopped onto the couch. Lena wandered around the kitchen, useless, touching everything. I monitored every handoff like I was diffusing something live. She reached for the seasoning near my cutting board and paused. You trust me to help yet? Her voice sounded joking on the surface. I handed her a spoon instead and kept the rest. You can stir, I replied, forcing an easy tone. Her jaw flexed once as she took the utensil. Being sidelined bothered her more than she let on. While she stirred, I slipped my phone onto the counter. The camera framed her torso and the pot in front. I pretended to check a recipe while the recording continued. This time she never touched anything she should not. Instead, she shot me a knowing glance and grinned. You think I don't notice when you're nervous around me? Her comment dropped between us like a thrown stone. I kept moving, chopped, tasted, adjusted, refused to flinch. You make surprising choices, hard not to pay attention. My answer carried more layers than she realized. That night, I wedged a suitcase against the inside of our door. Not enough to block it fully, just enough to make noise. On top, I balanced a metal water bottle precariously. If anyone twisted the handle, it would crash onto the floor. Sometimes safety is just a few seconds of warning. My husband laughed when he saw the setup, then stopped. You seriously think someone's coming in at night? He looked half amused, half uneasy, searching my face. I just want to actually sleep for once, I replied. He rolled his eyes, then kissed my forehead and dropped it. It took a long time for his breathing to steady beside me. I listened to each inhale like an anchor point. Time crawled, marked by the faint noise of pipes. Somewhere down the hall, a board creaked, then another. My hand slid under the pillow where my phone waited. The handle turned so slowly the sound barely registered. Metal clicked against metal, testing the lock with patience. For a moment nothing moved, like the whole house held breath. Then the knob pushed harder, hitting the suitcase with a dull bump. The bottle toppled and slammed onto the floor loudly. My husband jerked upright, startled, swore under his breath. Someone's at the door, he muttered, reaching for the lamp. I grabbed his forearm before he could open anything. Wait, I whispered, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. On the other side, footsteps retreated down the hallway quickly. When he finally unlocked and checked, the hallway was empty. Bedroom doors stayed shut, everything perfectly ordinary. He scratched his head, still half asleep, confused. Probably the house settling, he joked weakly, trying to lighten it. I stared at the faint shadow of shoe prints outside our room. Standing there barefoot, watching him climb back into bed. I understood something that changed the rest of that weekend. I was not dealing with random bad luck or shared tension. I was living with someone who enjoyed rehearsing near misses. And I was done treating her practice runs like coincidences. I lifted her phone off the counter while the faucet ran. The device was warm, screen dark, case smooth from constant use. In the other room, she laughed at something on the TV. I turned my back to the doorway and tilted the screen toward me. My pulse thudded hard enough to blur the unlock pattern. I already knew the code now, I had watched her fingers. 4 quick taps, then my own reflection stared back from the glass. Notifications stacked across the top, most harmless noise and clutter. One banner sat pinned from a number with no name. I tapped it before I could debate if this crossed a line. The thread opened on a short string of clipped sentences. Confirm she is still sharing a room with him. Wait until you are alone with her, understand. Do not mention this again in writing, seriously. My thumb froze halfway to the scroll bar. I dragged upward anyway and read the earlier piece. Make sure it looks accidental this time, I mean it. The words hit harder than the pillow from that morning. My stomach lurched, my brain tried to soften the impact. There was no easy explanation that made that harmless. A cabinet door slammed behind me, and I nearly dropped it. I locked the screen on reflex and set it down. Water still are. And covering my noise as I grabbed a sponge. Lena entered the kitchen with a half smile on her mouth. Her gaze went straight to the place where her phone rested. Forgot my lifeline, she reached past my arm and scooped it up. She checked the display and her eyebrows twitched quickly. For a second I thought she had seen the open thread. Then she toggled the side button and shoved it into her pocket. You jumped like I was a ghost, she observed, looking amused. I moved away from the sink and dried my hands slowly. The towel gave me something to grip besides my own skin. I thought the garbage pickup was here, I lied. My voice sounded off even to my own ears. She tilted her head and listened like she was taking notes. She lingered just long enough to make normal talk feel forced. Then she drifted back toward the living room in lazy strides. As soon as she turned the corner, I pulled out my own device. My fingers flew over the screen, replaying what I remembered. I typed the key lines into a blank note before they blurred. I went hunting for the number next, still shaking. Call log messages, anywhere it might show up by chance. I found it attached to a single missed call around midnight. Right between two harmless spam numbers and a delivery notice. Not saved, not labeled, just hiding in plain sight. I copied the digits into my note and added a question mark. No name, no city, nothing that linked to a person. Just 10 characters that now lived in my pocket with me. I thought about dialing it and hearing whoever waited there. Fear wrapped around that impulse and squeezed until it died. The rest of the afternoon moved like someone else owned my body. I laughed when people expected it, nodded at the right spots. My eyes kept drifting back to her hip where the phone rested. Every time she adjusted her waistband, I imagined more messages. She did not catch me looking, which scared me even more. In the late afternoon, my husband tugged me out to the back deck. He wanted to talk about the tension, his posture already defensive. She thinks you don't like her, he started, avoiding my eyes. I watched his knuckles flex where he gripped the railing. A part of me wanted to ask if he had texted her. Instead, I chose a smaller step and tested that first. What exactly does she think I did? I asked quietly. He sighed, rubbed his forehead, glanced toward the sliding door. She feels judged, he answered, voice tired rather than angry. Like you expect her to screw up every minute. That almost made me laugh, the kind without humor. I leaned on the opposite beam, keeping space between us. She is not clumsy, I replied, letting the word hang. He frowned, about to argue, then caught something in my tone. Okay, he said slowly, explain what you mean by that. The moment had arrived sooner than I planned. All my gathered fragments pushed at my teeth from inside. I did not want to spill them in a frantic rush. If I sounded hysterical, he would file this under stress. I handed him just one piece and watched the impact. She is careful, I said, choosing that word deliberately. Things do not just happen around her, they line up. He shifted his weight, uncomfortable but stayed quiet. Objects move right when she stands nearby, steps crumble under me, outlets break at the exact time I reach them. I let each example fall, trimmed and sharp. He blew out a breath and scrubbed both hands over his face. Vacation houses are weird, he tried, groping for a safe explanation. I think you're primed to spot danger after this year. I almost snapped then, almost threw the messages in his face. Something stopped me, something that remembered the unknown number. Would you be open to leaving tomorrow? I asked instead. The question came out steady, the answer mattered more. He blinked, thrown by the change in direction. We paid for all 3 nights, he reminded me automatically. Underneath that, I heard reluctance that did not match his words. This place feels wrong, I told him, meeting his eyes. I will drive home tonight if I have to. He stared at me, really looked, taking in the shaking. I notice things, I added softly, and I do not think I'm wrong this time. His jaw worked like his teeth were grinding on some decision. "Let me at least talk to her," he offered finally. The idea horrified me in a way I did not show. He pictured a calm conversation, siblings clearing the air over nothing. I pictured her getting advanced warning that I was onto her. Two very different scenes, same house, same people. "Not yet," I answered faster than I meant to. He raised his eyebrows, surprised at my intensity. "I need to be certain before you go in there." He folded his arms, tapping one finger against his bicep. "Certain of what?" he asked, and the pause between us stretched. "Certain of whether the danger came from one person or two. Certain of whether he was simply stubborn or something else. Certain of who had the most to gain if I vanished." None of those sentences made it out of my mouth. I swallowed them and stared past his shoulder instead. That night I changed my entire routine without warning. I pretended to get ready for sleep at the usual time. Teeth brushed, clothes swapped, door pulled, almost closed. Then I announced I had forgotten my headphones in the kitchen. My husband grunted from the bed and rolled away from the lamp. I left the bedroom, but I did not head downstairs. I stopped halfway along the corridor, near the corner by her door. From there, I could hear anyone moving near the living area. I waited long enough for my breathing to settle, then longer. My legs ached, my fingers went numb from gripping the railing. Eventually, floorboards creaked beneath light steps from below. One set, not two, measured and deliberate, not wandering. The sound paused at the base of the stairs, then turned. Whoever it was did not climb, just shifted position quietly. I peeked around the edge and glimpsed the faint glow of a screen. Lena stood by the front entrance with her back to me. Her head was bent, shoulders hunched slightly over the device. She whispered into the phone, one hand gesturing in short slices. I could not catch every word, but certain phrases hit clear. "She is still here now, yes, I will handle it." My throat closed, but my ears sharpened with fear. "Stop texting me about this," she hissed, voice barely above breath. "If you want it finished, stop panicking every hour." She listened for a moment, then laughed low and short. "Of course it will look like she fell or something." She ended the call and stared at the dark screen. Her fingers hovered over the keypad, then typed quickly. I saw the shape of my husband's name in the reflection. Not his full name, just his old nickname with the first letter. My chest went cold long before my brain accepted what I saw. The message preview flashed for a split second. "She is getting suspicious, might bail early, fix this." Then she deleted it before pressing send, thumbs moving fast. She erased the text like it had never existed. My opinion of our marriage shifted a few degrees in that hallway. I backed away before the floor could betray me. Once inside our room, I shut the door very quietly. The suitcase stayed where it had been, still guarding the gap. My husband lay on his side, already almost asleep. The urge to shake him awake clashed with the urge to watch. I climbed into bed and kept my eyes open in the dark. Images ran on a loop behind them, whether I wanted them or not. Her face lit by the phone, that deleted unsent message. The unknown number giving orders like we were pieces on a board. Somewhere in that chain my partner lived or lied. The handle never turned that night, which almost scared me more. Silence can be louder than any crash when you expect one. Every time someone did not move outside our door, I wondered why. Was she adjusting her plan? Was she waiting for a better chance? My mind wrote new accidents faster than I could dismiss them. Morning arrived without any obvious violence, just exhaustion. My husband woke cheerful, oblivious, stretched like he owned the day. I forced coffee down while he talked about finding a brunch spot. Lena joined us later with an eye roll and a fake yawn. "Who wants mimosas?" she chirped, already reaching for the fridge. Her phone pinged on the table and we both glanced down. One new notification from the same unknown digits as before. I recognized the sequence. Now it might as well be a name. She swiped it away before the preview fully formed. My husband missed the entire exchange while looking for his keys. I decided right then that I needed something solid. Not vague impressions, not almost spills, not memories of pressure. Something that another adult could not explain away in a sentence. Something I could hand to someone with authority written on their chest. To get that, I had to stay close to her longer. "Actually, let's all go out together," I suggested suddenly. Two heads turned toward me, equally surprised for different reasons. I smiled like I meant it and grabbed my own jacket. "So no one feels left out," I added, glancing at Lena. Her grin flickered, then settled into place like a mask. When we stepped outside, she looped her arm through mine. It looked affectionate from the porch, sisterly and sweet. Her grip registered as iron, fingers pressing just a little too hard. "Glad you're in a better mood," she murmured near my ear. "I was worried you might ruin everything before the fun part." In that instant, whatever doubt I still clung to snapped. I stopped wondering if my instincts were exaggerating the danger. The only question left was how many people carried that phone number, and which one of them truly wanted me to disappear without a trace. I hit record and slid my phone under the guest bed. The screen went dark, red timer ticking in my mind instead. Outside the door, their voices rose and fell over some show. I lay back on the mattress, heart punching against my ribs. If this worked, I would finally have more than fear. I needed her to walk in thinking I was easy prey. So I yelled toward the hallway that I felt wiped out. "Going to crash in here for a while?" I raised my voice. My husband answered from the living room without getting up. "Take the good pillow in there, might help your neck." He still thought this weekend was about rest and family. I was planning for impact, not relaxation, not anymore. The guest room door stayed open a few inches on purpose. Enough that she could slip through without turning the handle. Enough that the audio would catch every step and breath. I waited until I heard the commercial break finish. Then I called his name again, forcing a tired tone. "Can you grab that takeout we never picked up?" He groaned, then laughed at himself, then agreed anyway. Keys jingled, door opened, engine flared, my one wild variable left. I listened to the driveway noise fade and counted slowly. If she was going to act, this window would tempt her. A lone wife, thin walls, nowhere else to be before dinner. I pulled the blanket up to my chest and kept still. Every muscle wanted to pace, but stillness was bait. Floorboards creaked somewhere beyond the room, light and deliberate. Not his heavier stride, not my own pattern, something smoother. The house went quiet after that first gentle sound. Then another board protested, closer, slow, and patient. I turned my face toward the doorway and left my eyes shut. The hinges whispered when the gap widened by a few inches. Breath hovered in the entry, careful, listening, testing the scene. For a moment nothing else happened, like she weighed her options. Then her foot crossed onto the rug and the air shifted. I let my exhale drag, pretending to be half asleep. She walked in without greeting, without offering water or concern. The mattress dipped as she perched near my legs casually. "You really do nap a lot," she remarked, voice light. A hand landed near my knee, fingers drumming an idle rhythm. My shoulders tensed under the blanket despite my effort to relax. I opened my eyes slowly as if waking. "Head is pounding," I muttered, shielding it with my arm. "Kind of wish I'd stayed home this weekend." Her gaze snapped to my face, quiet interest breaking through. She shifted her weight closer, elbow grazing my hip. "You seem on edge," she replied, studying me. "Is the house freaking you out or something else?" The question probed deeper than the words on the surface. I let the pause stretch until it nearly hurt to hold. Then I gave her one small truth like a test. "Someone keeps playing with things that could really hurt me." I said it softly, almost confiding but not quite. "Outlet problems, weird pills, that kind of thing, hard to ignore." Her eyes stayed flat but the corners tightened almost imperceptibly. She brushed imaginary lint from the sheet near my thigh. "That sounds dramatic," she observed, not quite mocking, not caring. "Accidents stack up sometimes, people see patterns and freak out." I let a faint smile pull at my mouth, humorless. "Like messages that sound like instructions," I answered, watching her. Her fingers stilled, pressing into the fabric instead of moving. For the first time all weekend, I had her full attention. Her body went still, only her eyes shifted, calculating. "What messages?" she asked eventually. Tone smoothing out again. I shrugged as if it barely mattered, though my pulse raced. "Short ones, bossy ones, kind you should never keep on your phone." Color drained from her lips so fast it almost startled me. She masked it by standing, stretching, forcing a lazy posture. "You should be careful snooping," she commented, wandering toward the dresser. "People misread texts all the time and build fantasies." Her hand brushed the lamp cord, thumb rubbing the plastic. I sat up and planted my feet on the floor. You wrote that someone wants it to look accidental, I said. That one feels hard to misinterpret, even for me. The words landed between us like something dropped from height. Her expression emptied out like she set her face down. She reached for the lamp switch without breaking eye contact. The light clicked off, plunging the room into shadowy blur. Her silhouette loomed at the edge of the bed, unmoving. You know what your problem is? She asked, voice very calm. You think every strange thing has a villain behind it. My skin prickled, I could not see her features clearly. The sudden dimness made every shuffle and breath louder. Sometimes there really is a villain, I replied, throat dry. Sometimes she writes herself into the evidence. My own voice surprised me, steady and cold. The quiet that followed felt longer than it probably was. She inhaled once, slow, deliberate, like she made a choice. Then she moved, swift and controlled, no more pretending playfulness. Her knee hit the mattress, driving me backward against the headboard. Her hand clamped over my mouth before I could yell. I grabbed her wrist with both hands and yanked down hard. She already had the angle, using her weight against my chest. Her other forearm pressed across my collarbone, cutting air. Stop fighting, she murmured, not out of mercy but efficiency. My lungs burned while my feet scrambled for leverage. Adrenaline sliced through the haze and sharpened everything. I twisted my head sideways, teeth scraping her palm. She jerked, surprised, and I sucked in a ragged breath. My elbow drove toward her ribs with everything I had. She grunted, then slammed my shoulder back against the wall. You had to dig, didn't you? She hissed above me. Couldn't leave well enough alone, couldn't trust your husband. The mention of him hit harder than her body weight. Air left my chest in a startled, broken sound. She saw that crack and pressed down harder, satisfied. I clawed at her forearm, nails raking skin, seeking escape. Her grip tightened around my jaw until my teeth clicked. Relax, this does not have to be pain, she whispered. You close your eyes and this weekend ends tidy. Her fingers slid toward my throat again, testing the line. Rage did something fear never could for me. It narrowed the world to three things: breath, grip, angle. I drove my knee upward between us, fast and vicious. She reacted late, focus split between control and speech. The hit glanced off her thigh instead of anywhere useful. She cursed and rocked sideways, balance disrupted for a second. The bed frame groaned, feet scraping against the floorboards sharply. I rolled off the mattress, hitting the ground harder than planned. Carpet burned my cheek as I scrambled toward the doorway. Her hand closed around my ankle and hauled me back. Where do you think you're going? She panted, dragging me. My heel slammed into the baseboard, jolting my whole leg. I kicked with the other foot, aiming wild and desperate. One shoe connected with her wrist, loosening her grip marginally. I wrenched free and lunged toward the nightstand instead. My hand landed on the heavy glass water bottle from earlier. Finally, something that did not care who used it first. She lunged, fingers outstretched, trying to grab my hair. I swung with both arms, not thinking about aim, only force. The impact rang up my bones when it met her shoulder. She cried out, more from surprise than real injury. Her weight toppled sideways, hip crashing into the nightstand edge. The lamp tipped, then slid, then shattered against the floor. Darkness swallowed most of the room as the bulb burst. My ears rang from the crash, and my heart pounded deafeningly. Somewhere beyond that chaos, tires rolled over gravel outside. An engine idled, then cut off, then a car door shut. My husband's voice floated faintly through an open window. He hummed something under his breath, utterly unaware. The timing landed like a fresh shot of oxygen. Lena recovered faster than I wanted to believe. She pushed herself up with one arm, hair wild, breathing harsh. Her other hand scrabbled for the bottle still in my grasp. We wrestled over it, our bodies locked in a brutal tug. The glass slipped, clattered away, rolled under the bed. Her fingers found my throat instead, nails biting into skin. This time she did not bother with half measures or play. Pressure closed in tight squeezing sound and light to pinpoints. I clawed at her wrists and felt my own strength fading. The room narrowed down to her eyes and my heart beat. You weren't supposed to see those texts, she breathed. The words reached me through a tunnel, distorted and close. He trusted me to handle it clean, you ruined that. My mind seized on the word trusted like a hook. Trust from who, twisted into what, delivered through her hands. I tried to form a question, but only a rasp came. She leaned closer, her face inches from mine now. You really think he would choose you over everything, she murmured. Over freedom, over money, over the life he actually wants. Each phrase sharpened and twisted even as my vision blurred. Footsteps hit the porch stairs, then the hallway inside. Bags rustled, keys clanked, a humming tune cut through. Her grip tightened, maybe sensing that her window was closing. Spots exploded in my sight like fireworks gone wrong. I kicked the bed frame hard enough to make it slam. The bang echoed like a gunshot in the compact room. Outside, the hallway fell silent for half a beat. Then my husband's shout ripped through the house, urgent and raw. Claire, where are you? His voice cracked at the end. Lena's head snapped toward the door, eyes blazing with calculation. For a fraction of a second, she hesitated, fingers still locked. Her whole body hung between finishing and pretending nothing happened. I used that sliver of hesitation like a lifeline. I twisted sideways, dragging her weight off center with mine. We crashed together to the floor as the doorknob rattled once. The door flew inward and we slammed into his shoes. He stumbled, caught himself on the frame, eyes going wide. Lena still had one hand locked around my neck. I clawed at her fingers and forced out a broken sound. His face changed in one heartbeat from confusion to something else. He lunged, grabbed her shoulders, yanked her off my chest. Her nails scraped my skin as she lost her hold. I rolled to my side, coughing, vision flickering at the edges. She twisted in his grip, hair wild, voice already climbing. She attacked me, she shouted, jabbing a finger toward my face. I pushed myself upright, one palm pressed to the wall. Air scraped through my throat like sand, but it moved. Check the marks, I rasped, pointing at my neck. He looked between us, breathing hard, hands still shaking. Loyalty and shock wrestled across his features and left him frozen. Both of you stop, he snapped finally, voice cracking down the middle. Somebody tell me what the hell just happened. Lena stepped back, smoothing her shirt with trembling hands. She lost it, went for me, I defended myself. She spread her arms like she welcomed inspection. I reached under the frame with numb fingers and found glass. The bottle rolled into my palm, proof of our struggle. Play the audio, I croaked, staring straight at him. His forehead creased as he tried to follow my track. What audio? He asked, already sounding tired. The phone, my voice tore but kept going. Under the bed, it recorded everything from when you left. His gaze dropped to the floor, then to me, then back. The choice stood there plain as day between us. Believe the performance or hit play. He crouched, reached into the shadows, pulled out my phone. The screen lit up with the recording timer still running. He thumbed it to a stop, then tapped the playback icon. Lena took one fast step forward, then froze mid-movement. Her fingers curled, then uncurled like she tasted metal. Her voice poured into the room from a few minutes earlier. You had to dig, didn't you? Couldn't leave well enough alone. I watched him wince hearing her tone without the mask. Then the scuffle sounds kicked in, bodies slamming, my choking. Relax, her recorded voice murmured, close and clear, this does not have to be pain. He flinched like those words struck him physically. The live Lena shook her head, already scrambling. That audio was fake, she staged this, edited it. His eyes never left the screen as the file continued. You really think he would choose you over everything? The phone asked. Silence crashed over the three of us when it stopped. The only sound was my ragged breathing and the faint hallway hum. Who is he? He whispered, still staring at the device. I already knew, but the answer needed to come from her. His question hung in the air like a pulled fire alarm. She laughed, then short and broken, all charm stripped away. You obviously, she replied, lifting her chin. Who else begs me to handle his problems neatly? His head jerked up like he'd been slapped. For a second, I could not tell which of us he looked at. I never told you to hurt anyone, he fired back. His hands flew out empty, palms toward her. I vented, I complained, that is not the same thing. Her lip curled, the kind of expression someone makes at weakness. You gave me the number, you knew what that meant. The room shrank around us, every wall leaning inward. What number? I forced out, voice harsh and uneven. She smiled then, a slow, satisfied thing meant only for me. The contact who bankrolls cleaning up domestic messes, she answered. Your marriage reached the messy stage months ago. He shook his head, stumbling back a step like he'd been pushed. I told you I could not afford divorce, he muttered. I never asked for murder, that was your spin on it. My stomach lurched hearing how easily the word landed now. Like we had skipped 20 steps and jumped straight to that cliff. You texted make it look accidental, I reminded him, throat stinging. The screenshot lived on my phone, safe waiting. I saw it while you two watched TV last night. He went pale, then flushed, guilt and panic wrestling for space. I wrote it, then deleted it, he blurted, nothing sent. Network still logs drafts, Lena cut in smoothly, enjoying this. You typed it for me, you just could not press send, that's fine. She shrugged, as if any of that were reasonable. You handed me enough, I knew how to fill the gap. Her gaze slid back to me like I was a puzzle piece. We are calling the police, I said, surprising even myself. My voice came out low and steady, no wobble left. Neither of them answered right away, like the word stunned them. He rubbed his temples, breathing fast, eyes darting. Lena simply rolled her shoulders like she was warming up. Think about what that will look like, she warned softly. Big scene, family scandal, lawyers, money disappearing fast. She pointed at my throat with a lazy flick. You bruise easily, you bruise everywhere, they will poke there. The threat was not just physical anymore, it was financial and social. Good, I replied, hand already reaching for the nightstand. My windpipe disagrees with your risk assessment. My fingers closed around my phone, this time with purpose. He stepped forward like he might stop me, then halted. Some line inside him finally snapped in a different direction. I will call, he announced, voice suddenly hoarse. He pulled his own device from his pocket with shaking hands. His thumb hovered over the emergency number, then pressed. Lena watched him, eyes narrowed, arms crossed now. He will throw us both under the bus, she muttered. While he spoke to the dispatcher, I stared at the doorway. If she ran now, this would twist into something uglier. But she stayed, jaw set, breathing controlled, as though calculating odds. I am not going anywhere, she told me, reading my look. They need to hear what he confided over drinks. Sirens do not sound like television in real life. They start small, distant, then climb until they crawl under your skin. By the time the noise reached the driveway, my hands were steady. I walked downstairs in front of both of them, refusing to lag. Every bruise along my neck pulsed with its own heartbeat. Two officers stepped through the entrance, belts heavy, eyes taking in details. One of them clocked the red marks on my throat immediately. Who needs medical first? He asked, scanning our faces. I do, I answered, before anyone else could open their mouth. My voice scraped, but it did not break this time. They split us up quickly, which saved me from her glare. I sat at the table with one officer across from me. His notebook remained closed while he listened, which helped. Tell me what happened today, he prompted, voice neutral. I started at the fight, not at the pillow. Short phrases, clear beats, no embellishing, just what had happened. When I reached the part about the recording, his eyebrows lifted. Do you have that file available? He asked, already reaching. I nodded and pushed my phone across the wood. My knuckles brushed the surface, still shaking despite everything. The audio filled the quiet space again, uglier in daylight. When her voice mentioned him trusting her, the officer glanced toward the hall. Is that your partner's name she uses? He checked. I confirmed with one word because that was all I had. He wrote something down after that line finished. Any written messages backing this up? He continued. I pulled up the screenshot of the text I had captured. He studied the phrasing, the unsaved contact, the timestamp. This from her phone? He asked, tapping the corner. Yes, I answered, swallowing hard, before she cleared it. They moved on to my husband next, leaving me with a medic. Gloved hands checked my pulse, my airway, the swelling. Breathing's rough but stable, the medic murmured, adjusting some strap. Any dizziness, any blackouts, any chest pain now? I answered automatically, half listening for raised voices in the other room. Through the doorway, I caught snatches of their conversation. Never told her to touch my wife, his voice cracked on that word. You gave her that cont. Act, another voice snapped back. I was venting, I never believed she'd follow through. Every fragment made my stomach turn, but I kept still. They placed Lena against a different wall, wrists linked in metal. Her expression stayed almost bored, which chilled me more. Do you understand why you are being detained? one officer asked. She smirked, eyes drifting toward me over his shoulder. Because I care too much about my family, she answered. The officer did not bother arguing with that line. He read her rights while she stared at the ceiling. When they led her outside, she did not struggle or plead. She walked past me with her head high, breathing slow. Call a lawyer, she tossed toward my husband. You will need one too. He reached for her out of reflex, then lowered his arm. Our eyes met across the room and something died there. Trust maybe, illusion definitely, whatever excuse he had built. I screwed up, he whispered once the room cleared a little. It sounded small next to the weight of everything. The officer nearest us picked up the confession immediately. Explain that, he requested, pen hovering, gaze locked in. My husband closed his eyes for a moment like it hurt. I complained about money, he started quietly. I told her I was trapped if we split. He kept going, each sentence like ripping off another strip of skin. I knew she had shady contacts, I still talked. I texted something I should never have written. I deleted it because I realized how insane it sounded. He looked at me then, eyes wet, face raw. I did not expect her to try anything, he finished, choking on the word. The officer wrote it all down, no softening, no comfort. Did you ever clearly tell her not to act, he pressed. My husband opened his mouth, then closed it again. Silence stretched, and that answer was worse than any yes. They took our devices into separate bags before they left. Digital forensics will pull the originals, one of them explained. Drafts, call history, deleted threads, all of it. I nodded, numb now, skin buzzing without touch. Evidence had finally caught up with intent. They offered me a ride to a motel once the paperwork started. Safer not to stay here tonight, the medic advised gently. We can circle back for clothes later with an escort. I agreed before my husband could insist I stay. He reached toward me and stopped short of contact. I want to fix this, he whispered near the doorway. I studied the man I had shared a bed with for years. The man who had treated his fear of court like a puzzle. Who had poured that fear into the one person most likely to weaponize it. I need you to tell the truth, not fix it, I answered. His face crumpled a little as those words landed. For once, I did not rush to cushion anyone's reaction. Cooperate with them, hand over everything, do not spin. I straightened, feeling every sore muscle, every tender bruise. I will figure myself out somewhere you cannot reach. The ride to the motel felt outside of time. Streetlights strobed through the window, breaking the darkness into segments. The officer driving kept conversation minimal, which I appreciated. You did the right thing recording, he remarked quietly once. Most people doubt themselves until it is too late. In the small room, I finally stood alone with quiet. No siblings fighting over narrative, no partner patching excuses. Just me, my sore throat, and the ringing emptiness. I stared at the cheap artwork, then at my reflection. I barely recognized the woman looking back. She looked tired, yes, but something else had shifted. The flinch was still there, but deeper inside sat steel. Fear had not vanished, but it had been joined by anger. Not the wild kind, the focused kind that remembers. The kind that waits for court dates instead of apologies. Detectives called the next afternoon while I sat on the bed. They had pulled part of the server record connected to the mystery contact. Not a full story yet, just fragments and location data. Number links to a prepaid phone purchased near your home, one said. Security footage will take time, but we are working it. Do you think he is behind all of it? I asked. The detective paused, choosing each word with professional caution. We see enough to know they discussed your possible absence, he replied. We also see hesitation and half steps which courts still evaluate. Your testimony matters, especially about what each of them actually did. After the call, I lay back and stared at the ceiling. This was not the clean certainty I had secretly hoped for. It was a mess of mixed guilt, bad choices, active malice. One person planned with enthusiasm, another opened the door through carelessness. Guess which one almost snapped my airway shut? I wish I could end this with a perfectly resolved answer. With handcuffs on the right wrists and justice delivered fast. Real life drags those things out, stretching nerves and patience. Court dates get pushed, lawyers file motions, stories twist in new ways. I learned that weekend that survival happens long before any verdict. Here is what I know with absolute clarity now. When someone shows you repeated, almost tragedies orbiting your body. When messages mention accidents around your name like a casual detail. When pressure closes over your throat twice in 2 days. You do not wait to see if they mean it a third time. I left that marriage even before a judge said anything. I left that family, that rental house, that version of myself. The version who doubted every instinct until proof nearly killed her. Now when my gut clenches, I treat it like a fire alarm. Because I have already met the kind of person who waits for you to hit snooze.